Good morning, Tony Dottino. My goodness, let's see if we get some more lights here. All right, that's a little better. Good morning. It's Monday, and I'm off this afternoon, and I'm in New York. I left Windermere, Florida over the weekend, and here in New York for a week, doing a leadership academy. And what always, you can tell my shirt's a little bit heavier, a little bit colder here, left 80 degrees, and here it's 30 today. So not exactly liking the change in weather so much, but I'm dealing with it, and I wanted to get my Live with Tony done here today. But the topic I wanted to cover today is always interesting. When I'm doing leadership conferences or talking with leadership, I'm always asking them the question, what does memory have to do with your role as a leader? And it's always interesting as the stares I get or the blank faces that I get back uh, to that question. And what people look at like memory and leadership. And so I'll usually start by saying, well, is it important that the directions or guidance or the vision and the goals that you establish for your organization are important for people to remember? You know, when you get up in front of a group of people or you talk one-on-one with people, uh, is it important for them to remember what you were talking about? And so I have always found it interesting to think that in most cases of leadership, most leaders, they're thinking about what they want to say and they want it to be brilliant and they want it to be memorable, but that they really test to see that what they finished speaking about really was captured and encoded into the minds of the people they spoke to. And therefore, their ability to retain it and recall it and use it is very present. And that's the formula for creativity, right? An existing information with new information, bang those two together, and you have the formula for creativity, which is how I got interested in leadership and in memory in the first place. It was how do we get people to do and act and behave in a way that would accomplish the goals and the vision of the organization. So off I am talking about leadership and memory. So the first thing I always say to leaders is, do you think memory is important for you as a leader, for you to at least understand some of the fundamentals to ensure that what you're speaking about is going to hook and associate to what people are hearing, thinking, and then acting and behaving on? So having a memory or thinking about what you want to say and how it's going to link and connect to the individuals that are going to either see it or hear it is an important factor. So how do you test that? Well, there's a simple way that you can even ask people is, you know, and you hear this in conversations on a one-on-one level. Can you just repeat, you weren't paying attention to me. Can you just tell me what I just said? And you can at least parrot that back and you can at least say, yes, I did hear what you say. In fact, that happened a few times while I was here in New York yesterday. We were watching some TV programs and I was trying to do a Sudoku puzzle. And my other half said, are you watching this? And I said, yes, I am. And I told her exactly what the storyline was. So she's like, okay, obviously you're watching it and you're getting and hearing what they're saying in terms of the storyline. But we go to that now as a leader in an organization, testing for how people are hearing, not just hearing and encoding it then, but then what are their thoughts about what they're going to, what are the actions they're going to take? Which is a way of saying, did they retain, did it come in, and are they retaining it in a way that's going to be useful? Well, the next thing I'm always thinking about now, I'm going to be doing some work with a grocery store, right? And the grocery store's got an outstanding vision. They've done some great work on culture. And the next question I want to know is, so with this great framework you've laid out on culture and operational efficiency, how do you effectively communicate this to your full range of employees from top all the way down and make sure that you're all connected in I call it the triangle of top to middle management to frontline leaders to frontline staff? So how do we know that what you want to get accomplished from the very top of the pyramid is echoed down and brought in and aligned to the middle, then that is carried out to the leaders that are going to have to execute the day-to-day operations that then follow through with the staff buying into it and aligning. So how do we make sure that that which we're communicating is going to be clearly spelled out in an organization of thousands of people? So here we go again. We're back to memory. What's the vehicle you're going to use? What are the words? What documentation? What videos? What virtual broadcast? How will you ensure that people going from top to bottom are all on the same page and aligned to what you're trying to do? So the first thing we get is, how do you know that they remember what you're asking them to do? Because if you're working on customers, and in this case it's going to be in a large grocery store chain, how do you know that the frontline people understand what they're interacting with when they're talking to customers? So how do you accomplishing based on the great work that was done on the vision and the goals, the objectives, and what the culture characteristics are, what the operational efficiency goals and characteristics are, and what the brand is that you're trying to accomplish. So how do you know that this is all retained and utilized in the thinking of people on a day-to-day basis? So that's the next challenge that I find leadership has in thinking about the vehicles and the way that they present material to their frontline workers so that they're aligned, because they're ultimately the people that are going to interact with the customers. That's frontline, and they've got to be spontaneous. So now we go down all the way to the front line. Now comes the next big group about memory that you got to be stopping and think about. When a customer does leave your store, right? Customer does come in, do their work. What is it they're going to retain? What are they encoding in their thinking that they're retaining? So when then people ask, so how was your shopping? Or they go home and meet somebody about asking you about your store experience. What is it that people are going to retain that they're going to talk about? And that's where a lesson on memory rhythms becomes important. So the first thing that they encounter when they walk into the store, you're thinking about, okay, what does this all look like? So the first thing people encounter in a shopping experience is the appearance of the parking lot, the stores, the hallways, however they're going to get into the front entrance of the door that lets them get into the store itself. What does that all look like? And what am I going to remember about it? Now I go into the store itself and I start going up and down the different aisles for the groceries. And I sometimes see empty shelves, and I'm like, whoa, we got lots of empty shelves. What are we doing there? We've all heard of the toilet paper, paper towel stories of the early pandemic. But in any case, we go, and now we start going up and down aisles, and we start looking for what we came in to buy. We have our own shopping list, so we don't forget anything in our list, and how sequenced that is to our experience in the grocery store. But that then brings us to, we go about our goods, and now we're going to the checkout lines. And what's interesting is more and more stores in the grocery world are going to self-checkouts. Even in Walmarts, I see, in Targets, self-checkouts. But what do you lose in self-checkouts? Well, what has the experience been like? So now during your shopping, you had first appearance. Now you go through and you have experiences throughout each of the aisles and what you're finding. But now you have the closing experience. I'm on checkout. And what's the checkout experience like? And boy, less and less people want to wait on lines today. I think COVID has brought that to a whole new level of prioritization and not wanting to stand behind people. And so now we check out. And as we're checking out in some of these self-checkouts, we lose some interpersonal interaction, because here's the